Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, May 5th. I will now call this meeting to order. I'm looking for any added items to the agenda. Seeing none, I will now call from consensus to accept the agenda as presented from my council members. Seeing consensus, then I will move that the agenda is accepted as presented. We will now look for the adoption of the previous Committee of the Whole meetings from April 7th, 2025. We'll look for consensus of those. No errors or omissions from that. Thank you very much. Then those minutes are accepted by consensus. Moving down along to our agenda, delegations. We will start with page 5, item 3A, RCMP, the Municipal Policing Services Agreement. And I'll pass this over to CEO Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And for Council's information, this morning, Nina Sasarabud, she did back out. She is ill today, so she'll come to a future Committee of the Whole meeting to discuss our MPSA. But never to let us down, the RCMP is still here today. I'm going to hand that over to Director Andrew to introduce us to our first guest.
Thank you, CEO Williams. Through the chair, I'd like to introduce to Council today Acting Detachment Commander Jamie Day, who has been put in place to oversee the operations of the detachment on an interim basis during the process of finding a permanent detachment commander in Warren Wright's retirement. So I'll pass it over to Staff Sergeant Day to introduce himself and take any questions that you might have for him.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite. I'm an East Coaster like your CAO, so I can speak a little fast, so if I do, let me know. Especially when I get nervous. My dad's a Newfie and my mom's from Cape Breton, so I can speak with the best of them. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to police your community. I've been policing for 19 years, detached commander for almost 12 years. So I have some background there. I policed in Canmore as my first post. Went to Grand Prairie after that, down to Medicine Hat, Redcliffe area. Commander in Oyen, now commander in Three Hills. So excited to be here. Two of my main focuses that I like to focus on a lot in my policing is crime prevention and community policing. I think community policing is critical to our communities and the connection with communities with the police are two of my areas I like to focus on. So that's who I am. Any questions at all you have for me, please, I'm happy to answer any questions I can. I did just get here. I think this is my third week, so I'm getting to the lay of the land and what's going on in Olds, but extremely happy to be here. With that, any questions?
Thank you, Commander Day. I'm looking around to the council table. Are there any questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. Just, can you help me, Mr. Day, community policing, what does that from the RCMP perspective look like, and then from the citizens, obviously?
Just engaging with our community, so seeing members at community events, doing things like Police Academy. The Police Academy that was ran here last year was one that I developed in Three Hills 2 years ago. So we provided them with the information to do that, and how do we set it up. So things like that I'd like to continue. Example, I created a Facebook page in Three Hills Detachment that's approved by the RCMP and is able to get a lot of information out to the public, i.e. traffic advisories, crime prevention tips, especially with our seniors. We have quite a senior population in Three Hills, so I was able to also get out fraud prevention tips to help seniors, which is obviously a vulnerable sector that we focus on. So there's things I could do like that could bring a different look to what policing could be for community policing for Olds and the surrounding detachments.
Great, thanks. I like the front.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from council for Commander Day? All right, seeing there are none, then we will move along. We won't need a motion today as we've not had a report from the MPSA. So moving down now to page 6, item 3B, the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group, RDR Mugs. I will let CO Williams introduce the gentleman who's going to present on their behalf.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor, and already at the podium, because he is experienced. Familiar face, Mr. Rudy Friesen's with us today to lead us through the RDR Mugs reservoir presentation.
There we go. Deputy Mayor Blatz, Mayor Dahl, and members of council and administration, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Many of you are familiar faces, but you've seen me in different roles. So on a full-time basis, I am the CAO at Brazeau County. On a part-time basis, I serve as the casual or part-time executive director for the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group. And any spare time I have left over, my wife and I have a purebred Simmental operation west of town here. So, and after that, I try to watch hockey if I get a second. Go Oilers. Oh, okay. Just taking the temperature of the room before I get started. Next one, please. I want to talk to you about an important project that we've been advocating for as a group. Before I start, just a quick reminder on who we are. And as I put this together, I realized next year is our 20th anniversary as an organization. And it's been 19 years now we're advocating for the best uses of the water resources that exist in the Red Deer watershed. We are an organization that's purely made up of municipal members. In order to be a member, the only qualifier is that you need to draw your water in some way, shape, or form from the Red Deer watershed. So that constitutes a maximum of about 34 municipalities from the headwaters in Clearwater County all the way to the Saskatchewan border, so the town of Owen, special areas, MD of Acadia, and every one of us in between, serving about 350,000 Alberta residents, that watershed. Next one, please. One of the things that arose, I'll talk to you about a couple of things today, and I'll try to go through these slides fairly quickly. I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to leave some time for questions. But I want to cover kind of some of the issues around the Red Deer River subbasin. It is a subbasin of the South Saskatchewan River system, of which the South Saskatchewan River is, the Bow River, the Oldman, etc. So I want to talk to you about some of the economic benefits of water storage and what that might look like on the Red Deer River as we move forward. So where this started, we were working with a group called WaterSmart out of Calgary, and we were one of several organizations that were participating in the updating of a Red Deer, or the South Saskatchewan River operating model. And as they looked at that model, what they wanted to try and do was apply different and various scenarios to try and predict water flow analysis, impending pressures on the water system with changes in climate and et cetera, and the floods that we've been seeing and the droughts that we've been seeing. So we worked together. I was part of a group of many organizations, and there was others from Red Deer River Municipal Users Group that participated in this scenario. So in order to test the water modeling, one of the things that they needed to do is they needed to put pressure on all the water systems. So when they modeled, they plugged in a previous drought, and they took all the data from that drought and they pushed it into the river system, given the growth that we've got and the extra water that's being used, and they tried to see where the problems were created when they put pressure on the river. As they started to do this, one of the things that was immediately realized that all the other watersheds in the South Saskatchewan River system have a lot of levers to work with to manage drought, flood, other things, and Red Deer doesn't. If you look at the storage on this slide, there's the Red Deer River storage relative to the storage on all the other watersheds in the South Saskatchewan River system. We've got one lever to pull, Glenifer. So, go ahead, please. Thank you. So, when you look at all of the river systems, or all the river systems in the south, you see that there's a lot of dam cubes of storage of water on the system relative to what there is in Glenifer. So what that means, the next one, please. Oh, actually, we'll go to the next one so I don't get too far behind here. So when you look at the storage on the Red Deer River subbasin, it's very small relative to the others. And what Glenifer Dam was designed, well, it's Glenifer Reservoir, pardon me, Dixon Dam. What it was designed to do, really and effectively, was to make sure that every day, 365 days of the year, they could maintain a river flow of 16 cubic meters per second past the city of Red Deer. That's it. That was the responsibility of Dixon Dam, and that was to ensure that Red Deer was able to grow and provide water for its residents, et cetera. So when we got into this modeling and we started to put additional pressure on all the river systems, including the Red Deer, they said, well, what if, how far can we push Glenifer before it can't maintain anything else other than that? And we realized quite quickly that it can't maintain any other downstream commitments under pressure, only what it's doing for the city of Red Deer. So that's a problem. Under a drought scenario, it can provide water for the Red Deer system for about a year. And if there's another year of drought, Glenifer's about empty. So that was a problem under the modeling. So it quickly led to the conversation about extra storage, given that Red Deer doesn't have that much. Next slide, please. This is, again, just another example of how different it is in terms of the storage on the other systems, the Bow and the Oldman versus the one on the Red Deer River. And we all know that that's the Glenifer, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So the conclusion of the working model group was that, as I've circled here, there was a lot of conclusions about the modeling. The key one, the Red Deer River does not currently have enough levers to effectively manage the variability induced by climate change through the South Saskatchewan River operating model. So that's the levers, and we've had a longtime member of our group who's since retired that always said that you can talk about water all you want, but unless you're storing it, you're just a spectator. You're just watching it flow at the rate it chooses to flow in the direction it chooses to flow. And so it's key that if we want to grow our communities and be sustainable, we got to store that water so that we can effectively manage it. Next slide, please. There's also some economic benefits to that are being considered as we move forward with the study. And a lot of people talk about the environment, and I think in a lot of respects, stored water is really good for the watershed because it gets more, it provides more consistency of flow. It doesn't provide that drought and flood scenario on the rivers, and so that's proven to be fairly positive from an environmental standpoint. For the general public, I mean, there's growth and a lot of possibilities for growth in municipal and other industry growth from additional water storage. Of course, local governments can add on to their water supply. The recreational users are lower, they're a little lower down the line. But next one, please. So just a quick slide that shows you kind of what we project to be the direct and recurring benefits of Ardley. And initially what you'll see is the big benefits are going to be agriculture because it allows for water storage, which allows for irrigation. And some of you may know, certainly Councillor Cummings is familiar with the Eastern Irrigation Project in special areas. The Ardley Reservoir would have an incredibly positive impact on that project because it would give them consistency of water delivery on an annual basis regardless of variable conditions. And as it sits right now, as I indicated earlier, the only lever that affects the water all the way to the Saskatchewan border is Dixon Dam. That's it. So the midstream reservoir is actually something that's been talked about for a lot of years, several decades in fact. We talked a lot about it in the Water Smart presentation in November. Next slide, please. The next one as well, please. We'll try to keep going through this. But what we found, if you see at the top there, this Ardley Dam location was initially studied as early as 1954, and you see the subsequent studies that have taken place. That location, we're indicating that it's about 70 kilometers downstream of Red Deer. If you know where the Content Bridge is on Highway 21, which is close to Bashaw, I guess, it's a little bit west of there. So the reason it's been studied so often and why it's getting some traction again and funding from the government is that when you look at the opportunities to store water on the Red Deer River, there aren't a lot of them. And this happens to be an area where you're between two bridges, so you don't have to build another bridge, you don't have to move a highway, and it's an incredibly deep valley right there, and so you can store a lot of water without using up a lot of acres. So it's been identified as early back, as I said, as 1954. when I did the presentation to the Highway 12 and 21 Water Commission, they sat on this map for about 20 minutes because this is their home turf. They understand all the township roads and the rail lines and everything like that, and they left this slide up for about 15 minutes trying to pinpoint exactly how many of their neighbors would be swimming and et cetera. So I like to keep this one in here. It shows you, if you look at your package and you see the township roads and you go to Google Maps, you'll be able to get a good sense of where it lies in the watershed. So the province committed some money to this in the 2024 and the 2025 budgets. And so the examination is to follow the direction that came out of the river operating model to consider additional on-stream storage on the Red Deer River, specifically the Ardley Reservoir, to provide water supply security for future licenses and also to mitigate flood and drought conditions and support substantial future growth. Next slide, please. I don't know if I've got it on here. This is just the kind of the phases of the study. We're just working on this, finishing up the scoping study. When I say we, it's not me personally, but the province. And they're moving into the conceptual design now. And then they'll get into the feasibility study piece, and they hope to be done by 25, 26. In your slide presentation is a breakdown of kind of how it goes through the stages of the development of the project and where it kind of leads them over the next 2 to 3 years. I mentioned already that the funding has been approved by the province. We were hoping initially that the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group would be able to provide the study on behalf of the province. We weren't granted that opportunity. So as a result, they're a little behind, and we didn't think it would be behind if we did it, but that's another story. So there's the money that's been approved and recommitted in this budget. Environment Protected Award Areas has awarded the study to Hatch Limited. I'm working to get an update for our next MUGS meeting in May. I haven't got confirmation yet that we'll get that update. But I think it's important from our perspective to see this feasibility study and pursue this road of additional storage. We've had some of the experts that are connected to our organization do some analysis of what it means to have this storage on the Red Deer River. And to give you a sense, this reservoir would be about 4 times the size of Glenifer, just based on where they would put the dam and the natural reservoir space that lays as it goes back upstream. That's a significant body of water. And when you do the analysis on the dams cubed and the capacity to benefit upstream and downstream, they believe that it would expand, it would almost double the licensing capacity of the Red Deer River. So that's how valuable storage is when you think that the other rivers in the South Saskatchewan Basin are at their license limits, and Red Deer is the only one that's not. There's more pressure on our watershed for sure as time goes by into the future. So with that, I've kind of scooched along here, but if there's any questions about this, I'd be happy to answer them. There's a lot of information that's kind of predetermined by the operating model, but a lot of answers left to be found here with the feasibility study. But I think the positive thing is that every time we've come back to this conversation starting in 1954, it all points to the same location on the Red Deer River. And if you look at the approach that our Minister of Environment for the province has taken in the last number of months and years, she's an advocate for this sort of thing, and she understands that growth is attached not just to some of our other resources in the province, but to water as well. And so she's focusing in on this, and to the extent that the province for the first time in about 10 years is opening up the Water Act to look at different ways to maximize our storage, our capacity, and our ability to continue to grow the province. With that, Madam Chair, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Friesen, for your presentation on RDR MUGS, and I know from sitting past term for 4 years on RDR MUGS how valuable this study will be, and I know that Minister Schultz and Minister Sigurdsson have both spoken many times on the value of this study and the value of water conservation. So I will now open it up to anyone in council if they have any questions or comments they would like to share with Mr. Friesen. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz, and through you to Mr. Friesen. Going through your presentation, very interesting. I definitely agree that the pressures that are going on with development and our environmental pressures that are taking place this is warranted. One of the things that I didn't see in your presentation, which the Dixon Dam is a power generating dam as well. Would that be incorporated into something like this, or would that be a third party that would step in and propose that with the construction of the dam?
Through the chair to Councillor Daly, excellent question. We've discussed it as a group. We've posed the question to the province, and the province has said at this time that there's no commitment to that, just to study the feasibility of the water basin. That said, common logic would tell you that you've got this energy that's stored behind this dam. It would be logical to use it for some energy creation as well. And I think that's something that could logically feed irrigation or other projects in that region as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cummings.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Rudy, you mentioned the minister and the opening of the act there. Earlier, you sent us all a video conversation that she had through Instagram. It talked about Ardley Dam too, did it not?
It did, through the chair to Councillor Cummings. The minister just last week released a statement because they're opening up the Water Act, and they've released a series of confirmed and tentative dates for public engagement, and specifically in our case, municipal and other interested party engagement in these Water Act conversations. And in the video that she sent out, she talked about kind of the same things that Red Deer River Municipal Users Group has been talking about for years, about sustainability environmentally and economically, and ability to grow and maximizing the ability of the capacity of the Red Deer River. So she speaks about those things, and she has now it's an interesting point that Councillor Cummings brings up, because when this conversation started, and you'll see some of the slides, it just refers to midstream storage on the Red Deer River, because they didn't want to make a formal commitment, and already the Minister of Environment is using the term Ardley Dam when she does her presentation. So they're dialed into hoping that this feasibility study will tell them what they need to know.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Mr. Friesen. I know you can't speak on behalf of the provincial government. I know we're just in the stages of feasibility studies, $5 million committed in the budget. But realistically, if all this does come to fruition, what kind of timeline are we looking at? The next 5 to 7 years? And do you even have a ballpark number you could pull out of the clouds that would say this is what it would cost to build? Thanks.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, there's a few ballparks around, probably 2 to 4 billion with a B to build the facility. That's an estimate that's been bantered around, and I think the feasibility study will narrow that number quite a bit. And yeah, I think that's one of the things that's been indicated. In terms of the time frame, that's been a really interesting conversation, because conventional wisdom tells you that from the time you drop the puck, go Oilers, it will take you about 25 years from the time you start to get a dam constructed. And yet, they're building one at Springbank right now that will be up and running in about 10 years. So where there's a will, there's some capacity to make these projects happen, especially if the feasibility study tells them that the site is right, the geography is amenable, and all those things fall into place. It could happen a little bit more quickly.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from council? I just do have one, Mr. Friesen. By opening the Water Act, do we see any potential risks or dangers coming by reopening that? I know it's been a long time since it's been reviewed, but I know by sitting on the Water Commission with licensing and allocation, and we are not at our capacity, what types of risks might we foresee, or would we see any?
My first reaction was a little queasiness about opening up the act, and there's a couple of areas where I think that Red Deer River Municipal Users Group would share a cautionary tale. I think one of the things that's institutionalized in the Act that's been talked about a lot is first in time, first in right. The minister has indicated that that's not on the table in these conversations. We'll see what happens. The other thing that's on a very high level of concern for our group is interbasin transfers. When you look at the size of the Red Deer River in comparison to its sister watersheds in the basin, if we start talking about interbasin transfers, we certainly lose our voice in the conversation fairly quickly. So that's one thing that would be of concern to our group that will certainly be discussed at our meeting in May. Other than that, by the things that the minister is seeking in terms of input into it, it all seems very positive in terms of allowing the Act to provide for growth and sustainability.
Thank you for that, because that was one of the concerns I did have, was the interbasin transfers, for sure. Well, thank you very much. Any further comments or questions from council? Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion to accept the presentation from Mr. Friesen for information. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion to accept the update from the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group as presented.
You. Thank you. I will now call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. We have accepted that report for information, and thank you for your attendance today. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of the information. And now back to the first job on the list.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move along now to the next item on our agenda, moving to page 29, item 3C, a presentation from the Olds Municipal Library. And C.L. Williams, would you like to introduce who's going to present on that, on their behalf? Thank you.
Most definitely. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. And again, no stranger to the podium. Welcome back to Leslie Moody, our library manager. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Council. It's always a pleasure to be here, so I appreciate your time. I did just come this past fall, so you have seen a little bit of these numbers. We did projections at that time, so it's a pleasure to kind of update and tell you how we have been doing over the past year. To sum it all up, we've seen a lot of growth. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the stats because we have talked about them a little bit, but we did see about 42,000 plus people come through our doors last year, which is always lovely to see. Of course, in times of economic crisis and I guess uncertainty, there's a lot of people that are looking for services that they don't necessarily have to pay for. We also get a lot of comments that it is nice to have a place in town that people can go where there's no expectation of paying anything just to be in that space. So thank you for supporting that in our community. We have approximately 37,000 titles in our collection. It is getting to capacity, so there's not a lot of room for growth. We are still, of course, increasing our spending on e-content. That is something that people are definitely using more of. But is not our total use. So you can see that 11,000 items were downloaded. E-content use went up a little bit again this past year. And then we saw once again our collection use go up to almost 100,000, so 98,000. It's gone up every year since I started at the library in 2002. So it's so nice to see that. Website visits was really the only thing that went down last year. We got a new website. Parkland Regional Library did a new template for all the libraries. It was a little bit cumbersome and hard to use for our patrons, so we did take the opportunity to redo our own website. We took advantage of some deals that we got through some grants and things like that. So it basically didn't cost us anything in the end to update this new website, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from people on being able to access our services a lot easier and things like that. So we hope that that will go back up our website use next year. This is our interlibrary loans, of course, because we're part of the Alberta Library System. You can see that we're borrowing more from other libraries once again, and we are lending more out to other libraries as well. So Technology, standards for member libraries is something I've talked about before. There is a document that was put together by all the regional library systems. It's a best practices, so to speak. So where we sit with a lot of the areas are at kind of enhanced or an excellent level technology, and our technology services are at an excellent level. We spend a lot of time making sure that we are tech forward in our library. Because we are a tech-forward community. So almost 10,000 computer sessions, that again went up. Programs, we saw 448 programs. That was about the same last year. You only have so much staff and so many hours in the day. So we're pretty much at capacity for the number of programs that we can offer, but you can see that we served almost 3,500 program participants. So our strategic plan is what guides all our programs and services, as with most organizations. And this is just a little sample of what we did. Our first service response area is creating young readers. We did our last strategic plan 3 years ago, and that was identified by the community as something that they saw the library being kind of a key supporter of. So these are some of the programs that we do for creating young readers. That's basically 0 to 18 years old. 0, yeah. Yeah. We do actually have a Books for Babies program that we partner with all of the libraries in Mountain View County, where we put together little bags with a book and information about how to come get your library card and information about all the programs. And so we definitely make sure we get them young. Satisfy Curiosity is our second one. So these are about programs and services that help people with their lifelong learning. That goes for teens and youth as well as adults. So we have things like book clubs and Lego Mindstorms and ELL programs. We do employment service programs at the library, as well as a lot of digital literacy type things. This past year we started doing some outreach programs. So we have at 3 of the Seasons and the Sunrise and the Mountain View Lodge, we go and we send our tech there to do digital literacy classes once a week. So each of them sees us once a month, and then we have a free session here at our library for digital literacy for seniors as well. So that's called Silver Surfers. So you don't have to be a senior to access it, but that's usually our clientele. And then our last service response area was really about being a comfortable space, and that speaks again to being that space that people can come. So we have things like Lego stations and puzzles out on a regular basis. We have activities for the kids to do after school where they have to do either a hunt around the library, and then we have little prizes that we can give them. So those are things that kind of keep people engaged while they're in the space or they just want to use it. Of course, we also have rooms that people can sit and study. We have some people that come and actually have to work there, so they'll use one of our rooms for the day to get calls done. We often have law offices and things like that where they do mediation at our library because it's a public, not unbiased space as well. So, and then of course our Library of Things, we talked about that last year, but that is continuing to grow and continuing to get use. So this year, we are updating our strategic plan. It's a 3-year strategic plan, so we're kind of in the process, and a lot of you would have gotten an invite to our community facilitation group. We're doing an online survey right now. If you have the opportunity to fill it out just as residents and to let us know how you see Olds progressing, and then we take that information and say, well, what of those community needs can the library help with? We will, of course, share that information with all of your organizations or all of your departments so that you can use that information as well. So our plan is to have a new strategic plan update by October, November this year. And of course, that all brings us back to kind of the value of the library, the bottom line, the numbers. So when you look at all of our stats for the year and the average value of what those things are, we were able to save the community approximately $3.5 million by coming and using the library. So for our $571,000 input, which includes your contribution, provincial contribution, county contribution, and our fundraising and things like that, it's about $6.10 returned to the community for every dollar invested. So, yeah, it's good to see. Another thing that we're doing right now that isn't in here that I just wanted to put a plug in for is we are currently doing this week is the art auction week. So we have over 85 artists that have submitted pieces, and we have everyone from 3 to 83 years old that have submitted artwork. You can come down to the library and you can view it if you want. They're all hanging up now. They're gorgeous, and then if you just go to our library website, you can get the link to see them. Then you can vote for People's Choice, or you can bid on any of the pieces as well. So it's a little fundraiser for us. The artists have the option to keep a portion of their work, so it also supports local artists in our community, and then anything they can donate back to the library, and a portion of it comes to us. That's what's happening at the library. Questions?
Thank you, Ms. Moody. I'll open it up to council. Does anyone in council have any questions or comments they would like to make from our library presentation? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Ms. Moody. I have 3 questions, but I'll ask them one at a time and see where I go. There was a slide that you had in the agenda. I don't know if you pulled it up, but it talks about the total official population served, 12,375. 95 municipal, 2,800 county. Can you just tell me, like, what's the origin of that number? How do you get to that number? Is that just memberships, or?
No, that's population served. So that's our population, municipal population, which we got off of the, I believe, Alberta dashboard. And then the county population is what the county has assigned to us as part of the county. So how they come up with the money that we get, it's 2,798 that they've assigned to us in the surrounding area.
Right. Thank you.
I'll let Mayor Dahl go, and then I'll go back to you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I would like to speak a little bit about the facility itself. 42,000 people coming through your door. How is the space handling for you doing? It seems like an awful lot of bodies to be coming in through your facility. Is your facility sometimes at capacity, or can you tell us a little story about that?
Sure. Well, a good example is Thursdays. We have a couple programs go on after school. So if you ever come into the library on Thursday afternoon, it's hopping, which is great to see. I love that. And, you know, different people have different views of what a library should be like and how much quiet space you should have versus noisy space. I just tell them to come at a different time because I like hearing the kids enjoying themselves and having fun. We are, though, definitely at times feeling like we're very much at capacity for our space. As I mentioned, we can't really grow our collection anymore. The shelves are full, so the only way we can add new items is to delete old items, which is a part of our process as well. We do try to make sure that our stuff is up to date. But eventually, you know, you're supposed to have a certain number of books per capita. So as the population grows, we will need to grow our collections as well. We're managing, we're doing well, but it is, you know, considering how long it does take to expand facilities and things like that, it is probably something to start thinking about over the next 10, 15 years that we might need either a new branch or an expanded space. Happy to go up. I have ideas. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, you had another question?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, and through you to Ms. Moody. Following our budget discussions in late 2024, and there was I think a response you had sent to the CAO around some of your goals and objectives, one of them being fundraising for 2025. You mentioned the art auction, which I assume is part of your fundraising initiative. Can you talk a little bit more? What else may be coming down the pipeline from the library's perspective as far as fundraising for the year?
Absolutely. We have pursued a number of grants this year that we didn't pursue in previous years, and have been trying to kind of increase that portion of our fundraising and community giving. And then we also are planning a ladies' night later on in the fall to try and raise some funding for the library. We
Well,
won't
you're-
exclude you guys if you want to come.
Thank you. You're certainly a very active hub of the community, aren't you?
We try to be.
That's good. Any further questions before I go back to Councillor Wilson for his final question? All right, Councillor Wilson, you're up.
Thank you. And it kind of piggybacks on Mayor Dahl's question around the pinch points that the library is seeing. Her question was specific to the facility and the infrastructure. I'm just wondering, we are embarking on a public engagement growth strategy for the town, what that's going to look like going forward. Can you talk in general around what pinch points you would foresee for the library? You mentioned your programming sessions are at capacity now. The town is looking to grow over the next 3-5 years. At what rate, I'm not sure. But what does that look like for the library, aside from or in addition to infrastructure problems?
Well, more people in town definitely means more people hoping to use our programs. So if we're at capacity, then we'll have to try and figure out a way to either do more outreach, use other community spaces to do library programs. We're not opposed to that. I think that's a great idea as well. But, you know, having more space to serve those people will definitely be something we need to think about, especially if we're adding, you know, 175 more units or houses and things like that in town. So I'm very excited about growth and more housing.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor Cummings.
Thanks, Chair. Just a quick question. There was a slide there, Programs and Strategic Plan, I think is the title of the slide, that had a big list of all of the different programs that you do. Yeah, the next one, I think. I can't remember. Anyways, it's on page 7 of your slide. When you guys do these programs, like my grandson, for instance, is a huge fan of the Minecraft Club. He goes there all the time. Are these all coordinated and run by staff members, or do you rely on
For the
some
most part,
volunteers?
yes. I have one full-time program coordinator, and then my tech person is kind of half programs, half tech. So I would say 1.5 program coordinators. We do bring people in if we don't have the expertise or things like that. So if it's an art program, for example, we're going to be working with, you know, an Indigenous beater to come and do some Indigenous beading sometime this summer. So we do hire contractor or contract out some of those programs in town, but for the most part, it is staff run and developed.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from council? Thank you, Ms. Moody, for your presentation on the library. Very much appreciated, and I think council and administration are aware that most of our facilities are becoming at capacity, and we will be looking in the future at enlarging many of them and upgrading and improving as time goes on, particularly as we hope to grow the community very soon. Yes.
Maybe we should build a new arena that it goes all the way to the library and make it all big one multiplex.
With many, many dollars, we could certainly do that. Thank you. Mayor Dahl.
I'd like to make a motion if you
Yes,
wish.
thank you.
Okay, I move that council accept the annual update from the Olds Municipal Librarian, Leslie Moody, as information, and thank her very much for such a detailed report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will now call the question. All those in favor? Thank you very much. That is carried. And moving now along to our agenda, I see that our representative from the Olds Municipal Historical, or the Olds Historical Society, the Olds Museum, has arrived. CAO Williams, would you like to introduce, please?
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor. Yes, and stepping to the podium is Mr. Bill Hall. And Bill, I believe you are the chair of the Olds Historical Society, which operates the Olds Museum. So turn over to Bill. Thank you for coming.
Howdy, everybody. I know most of you around the table, and I've sold you apples and bananas and oranges and lots of that kind of stuff previous career. This is kind of a new one for me. Donna has lost her husband, unfortunately, and moved back to Manitoba, and I inherited the chairmanship or chairperson. So I'm here to give a bit of a report as requested by council. And good afternoon. You interrupted my lawn work, so it's cool in here. It's hot out there. So the Olds Historical Society, of course, would like to extend its sincere appreciation to the town of Olds and council for the continued support. This financial contribution that we are receiving in 2025 is absolutely imperative to continue and is vital to our operations and community programming. And as part of our commitment to transparency and future planning, we are submitting the report outlining the benefits of the town's investment and the progress that we've made towards sustainability. So the Olds Historical Society is the overarching group that looks after the Mountain View Museum and Archives, which is in a central location in Uptown Olds, and most of you I've seen in there at one point of time or another. We collect, preserve, and exhibit the heritage of Olds and are also the designated custodian of the Mountain View County Archives. This makes our organization a regional archive, and we handle heritage materials that serve researchers, local families, county schools, institutions, and the public. And we are also a primary tourism destination in Olds. We draw a number of visitors to town annually. We've had people from Norway this past year that have seen stuff because we've had a number of Norwegian themed displays, and we've had hosted a Norwegian tea. So our reach is quite a ways away. We had a number of people visit last year who were also interested because they hadn't been into a museum that was designated as celebrating the 50s. So they were from Edmonton, and then there was another couple from Bonnyville, I believe, that came and visited us. We are currently in discussions too with Travel Alberta. We would like to be officially designated as kind of Olds tourism hub in the future if possible. And that will further enhance the visibility for the town and support the economic activity in the region. So you see in front of you the events calendar. That is posted so everybody can see that we are very, very active. And we're also, if you can see the Norwegian calf with a ghost, with the guest host, that professor has previously visited us and is coming back. So quite excited about that. Over the last few years, the Society has taken meaningful steps to invest in both the town old facility we occupy and our regional and our organizational sustainability. So there was a graph provided in the package that you folks got. We have invested $40,000 of the Society's monies into the building since 2018 to improve safety, accessibility, and the visitor experience. We would like to see more. We have also taken on the responsibility for sidewalk cleaning and that kind of stuff around the building. We have submitted some estimates to the town for upgrades to our track lighting and our furnace system. Of course, that's the whole goal, is to save money there. So if you upgrade, we've already been told that furnace operates at about 30% efficiency. So if we can get a 90% efficiency of furnace in there, your gas bill drops significantly. The lighting is from the 90s, and the flooring is from the 80s. So those two things need to be addressed so that we can, as a community of the whole, have a place that we can be proud of. Right now, I'm afraid it's looking kind of run down, and we are writing grants to try to alleviate some of that expense, and we're hoping to go forward and at least those three items be taken care of in the near future. So financial planning and sustainability, the Society is launching a membership drive to help broaden our support and increase revenue. We have established a sustainability fund, and this year we've taken some of our money and put it into a $12,000 GIC. When you sit with money in savings, you get 50 cents a month. If you invest it, you might get a couple of $100 a month. So that's the goal, is to grow that egg for the future. Of course, we still want to build a brick slide is up in front of you. We're still trying to build the link. So those of you that have seen the museum building, it sits facing south. At the back, there's a garage. We cannot offer programming after hours because there's no washrooms and no water in the garage, but the garage has been renovated with some of that $40,000 that we have earmarked for that, and is what we call an education center, and we have various groups using that already, but of course they can't, they have to be, that rental has to be done during our hours of operation because they have to have access to water and washrooms. We have hired qualified staff, which has helped to increase donations and visits. And of course, our Facebook presence. Without our Facebook presence, we wouldn't have attracted these people from Norway and from places further beyond. We're also looking at a meeting with our regional museums. The Mountain View County is also a contributor to the Olds Historical Society to help run the museum and the archives, but they have not changed their contribution to the museum in a number of years. And with us being the only one in the region that has an archive and a professional archivist, we feel that the county could sweeten the pot a little bit and take some stress off what we deal with and what the town has to fork out. Okay, community engagement and partnerships. So we're continuing to build relationships within the community. So obviously we do work with local schools and youth groups. So the Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, Chinook's Edge School Division does tours. We have a neat little program called Museum in a Trunk, and our professional staff visit seniors in long-term care facilities, I should say, and offer a little outreach program. Museum in a Trunk. Community service organizations such as the Hospice, Kiwanis, Elks, IODE. Many of you have probably heard that we hosted the Elks anniversary in our gallery last year. Even one of Lynn McDonald's old hockey sweaters was in there, so it was quite a neat thing to see. And we have, sorry, I lost my place here just a second. These partnerships help us share support. So having, like the Boy Scouts will come and do a cleanup, and then we'll let them do a tour of the museum. But we have, we've committed to helping the Kiwanis. The few of us that are on the board have committed to help the Kiwanis with their annual pancake breakfast, May 24th. And on the events calendar, you saw a number of things like the golf course and the Kiwanis Club are going to be celebrating anniversaries, and the museum is going to be the place to host those, including a couple of wine and cheeses coming up in conjunction with those anniversaries. So we're trying to make it a happening place. So grant opportunities, this has been discussed quite frequently with a couple of those around the table. With the town's support, because they've supported us financially for years, and we are able to apply for grants, some of which are the Community Facility Enhancement Program, Alberta Museums Association operating and project grants, and some of the community initiatives programs such as the Mountain View Power. So we have not been successful in the past 10 months achieving any of those grants. And unfortunately, grants don't pay wages. Grants have to be for projects. So some of the applications have been for some of the grants have been aimed at sustainability, like trying to get that furnace replaced and trying to get the lighting upgraded so that we can cut costs to the town. What else did I wanted to say here? Oh yes, the staff has taken the Grant Writing 101 course that was offered through the Government of Alberta Community Engagement. And we attended the meeting given by Community Foundation's 35th anniversary tour at the library. And we're going to be applying for some funding through that portal as well. So we are proud to share that the Society is currently still in good standing with the Alberta Museums Association and is in the process of renewing our application as a recognized museum. Many grant opportunities require commitment from the municipality to go forward with grants, and that backing has allowed us to be a real key for obtaining outside funding. So some of the grants in the past have been given to the museum because the town of Olds has continued to support us through the years. So the town of Olds, I think the next portion I wanted to talk about is marketing value and visibility for the town. So the town of Olds benefits from consistent and high profile marketing through our work. The town's logo is prominently displayed in all of our outreach and promotional materials, Facebook. Olds is mentioned in nearly all of our external and internal communications, which provides a number of dollars, immeasurable dollars really, in free advertising for the town's brand. So we feel that we provide that as part of our commitment. We maintain an open invitation to town representatives to attend our board meetings as part of our commitment to transparency. And our books are always open to scrutiny, and I thank Darren Wilson for coming to our AGM. It was much appreciated to have your presence there. The museum is on several visitor platforms such as ATIS and TripAdvisor, which again is helping to draw people to the town of Olds. So anyway, my final little point that I wanted to talk about was we'd like to request a 5-year operational funding agreement. Since I've been on board and previous to that, we have not had any real official agreement with the town of Olds. And I would like to see that become an official agreement so that we're not bugging people all the time, to put it bluntly. So we want to build on the momentum and ensure the continuation of our operations into the future. So we are asking that the town of Olds consider a 5-year operational funding agreement. A long-term commitment, of course, builds a foundation to provide the financial stability for the necessary that's necessary for strategic growth and for applying for grants. Enable us to apply for additional grant funding with even more ammunition than we have in the past, because we haven't had that formal agreement. Yes, the town has been supportive, but because we haven't got that formal agreement to attach to the grants, they are often not, they haven't come forward with the cash that we'd like them to. Allow us to move forward with the projects, and I talked about the link building to link the education center with the museum building itself. So we're not asking for increased funding, but rather predictable support over a 5-year term that will give us the time and flexibility to continue developing some new revenue streams and partnerships and develop the programs that support the community essentially. So in conclusion, the Olds Historical Society is proud of its role in preserving and promoting the heritage of Olds in the Mountain View County. We are committed to continued transparency, and we are prepared to innovate. And you've seen some of that innovation in the last couple of years with our new programming, making use of the Education Center. We've had the art for kids in the summer. using the education center. So that was never a revenue stream up until the last couple of years. So now that we have the education center, it can be a revenue stream. With the town's continued support, we are confident that we can ensure a sustainable future for the Mountain Museum and Archives, and we hope to remain a cornerstone of the town of Olds. Thank you for your time listening to me. I know that our director at the museum has sent you a package with some letters of support to the museum, and the budget is in there. So at this time, I'd like to field any questions that anybody has.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall, for your presentation, and I understand your request for sustainable funding. That's where we sit as a municipality quite often with both the province and the federal government as well. We would all like sustainable funding to be able to look into the future. But with that comment, I will open it up for questions or comments. Mayor Dahl.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to know, Bill, if you would be able to elaborate a little bit about your membership drive. What is your membership drive, and can you just explain to me what and how?
So it would be kind of like a library card. They're investigating some little things, and if you buy a membership, then you have an archive. You can do an archive request for free, or you can do a number of different things, and so we've never had really a membership to become part of the Olds Historical Society. So that's what we're hoping to do in the future, and in the near future, is launch a membership drive so that we can sell some memberships, which will enhance our bottom line, so to speak. And there will be some benefits offered in that membership, because right now, if you bought a membership at the museum, there's really no benefit to you. So we need to determine what the benefit of having a membership to the Olds Historical Society will look like. So.
Supplemental?
Yeah, go ahead.
So are you saying that you do sell memberships
Yes, we do,
today?
yeah.
And
Oh,
how much
yes.
are they?
I believe that they run at $10, but that's, I'm
Okay.
not.
So you're
entirely
looking to
sure.
enhance the program?
Exactly.
Okay.
The program has, because it's, you could be a member of the Olds Historical Society, you could vote at our meetings, you could become part of the board, but most of the members are basically the board and the staff and the people that are actively involved now. So a membership drive would enhance that and hopefully bring new board members in, because we're struggling. We only have 4 of us. So.
Thank you. Councillor Cummings, I believe you had a question?
Well, more of a comment, thanks, Chair. I sit on the Olds and District Special Family Voices group. We're the ones that are working with you on the Summer Arts Program, which works really well for us, and the community members that participated and get a great experience. Today, unfortunately, I'm wearing my Town of Olds Councillor hat. Yeah. And again, I don't want to distract from the great work you guys do. But it's our job to sit down and look at how best to spend the money that the taxpayers entrust with us, right? And when I'm looking at the Historical Society and the museum in particular, I don't see the same sort of impact that we get, say, from the library, who had the presentation before you. The amount of people that attend and participate, it's a very 2 different types of organizations.
Right.
And I support the idea of a formal funding agreement, and so that can help the society get sustainable funding that's not necessarily Olds taxpayer dollars,
Correct.
to better provide the support that you envision for the society. To that end, I would support that sort of idea, but it may not be something that's the same every year. To me, the society really needs to show, and I guess it goes back to the agreement that was made in 2013 with the town and the society, where we upped our funding so that you could get to that sustainable stage. It's been quite a bit of time since 2013. I don't see that we've gotten there. Again, based on the conversation we're having just now. Mm-hmm. So I do agree that the town can certainly come away with this, with some way to help you become more self-sustaining, so more self-supportive moving forward. And if that agreement might help, that's a great way to do it, as well as the grant writing. My only concern is that I believe in the past we've asked as well for some numbers. How many people are coming to the museum, what programs are seeing what type of viewership, and we haven't really gotten those numbers. Reassurances that people are going, and again, I see that with the summer arts program that's getting people going there. I'm just having a hard time justifying spending more money on the museum, or even the money that we are currently spending on the museum, when I feel it can be used better in more engaged programs. So, and again, I don't want to distract from the good work the library is doing. I put a different hat on, and I'm going to have an opinion it's great. It's working great for my other board that I'm on. Just can't see it here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor
Duly noted.
Cummings. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Wilson, you have any comments or questions?
You've coaxed one out of me,
Yeah,
Deputy
you
Mayor. so
betcha. I'm going to
thank
call
you.
on everybody.
Appreciate it. I have a myriad of thoughts, 20 pages of my notes, so I'll try and condense that into about 20 minutes. But
Thanks, Darren. I gotta get back to my yard.
no, appreciate the work and the effort that your small but dedicated group, your small and dedicated group provide for the town. And and you've articulated some of those benefits, so certainly appreciate that. When I look at things, it would be nice, and I think we both want to get to the same place, we being council and the town administration and the Historical Society, we want to get to a place where the museum or the town isn't so inextricably linked to the survivability or the prosperity of the museum. Far be it from me to coach and tell the experts how to run a museum, but when I was doing a little bit of research, one thing, and there are small town museums, obviously, that are very successful financially and however you want to classify the metrics, but they all seem to have that white whale or that unicorn that helps draw people in. Whether that's Sydney, BC and the Lego exhibit for 4 months, whether that's Nanton and the elevator tours, O'Leary and PEI and the Potato Museum, Markerville and the Creamery Museum, which is seasonal. It seems to me that's one, and I say maybe that's the utopian desire for our
It is.
society, is to find that nugget, that flagship that we can kind of rally around. Because my vision is you got the family driving down the highway and Dad leans over and says, Ethel, this here is the turnoff for Olds, and we're going to the museum. I don't know if we're quite there yet as far as tourism, which I'm a big proponent of. And so couched in all that is the whole ancillary income, additional revenue streams. And I know, again, you've touched on them, but for me, again, when I look at a lot of their successful museums, that's everything from memberships and admission, programs, facility charges, merchandise in this world of e-merchandise. And I've got a slogan for you that you can use to merchandise. Come to Olds, see what's new. And we'll do shirts and keychains and whatever else as a revenue stream. But that's where I'd like to get to, is that not having the town, and I apologize, this is more a comment than a question, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on some of the other revenue generating opportunities to diminish or lessen that reliance of the town or of the museum on the town. And my final comment is, good luck in your discussions with Mountain View County as far as renegotiating any cost sharing there. So I wish you all the luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Yes, we've all been working on our fundraising 101. And I think the big draw for the museum is the theme museum and getting that message out that, like last year, when I first took over, it was the 20s, and then we moved to the 50s. Now we're looking at the decade of the 30s. So that is starting to bring people in, right? So, but I'm sorry, I work with 2 different dog rescues, and puppies are cute, right? So we get pictures of puppies in bad states. We get the money rolling in like crazy. Unfortunately, when the museum, we don't have a lot of cute puppies running around the museum, so it's been a real challenge to find fundraising opportunities. Granting has been cut back incredibly so. The museum used to rely on casinos. You used to get a casino every 2 years and you'd net $25,000. Now we get a casino every 3 years and I think the payout was like 16. So you've shrunk that basically in half because you have to spread that money over 3 years. What used to spread over 2, and it's even less contribution to the bottom line. So unfortunately, we haven't found a benefactor like the Southerns who have thrown money into museums in Calgary. We haven't had benefactors propping up our museum like they have the Tyrrell. And that's part of the, and I think I discussed that with Guy, that we had talked about granting and AMA. Well, even if we're a recognized museum with the AMA, their funding from the government is slashed to nothing. So the 7 big, it's just like this, the 7 big ORE, the 7 big are getting government funding, so the 7 big museums are getting money from the AMA, but they no longer have a revenue stream either. So that has put us in the situation where we have had to ask the town to continue to support the museum because there hasn't been that new revenue stream. And we are one of the only ones in an old TELUS building, so you know, maybe there's something that we could do, market around that. But I appreciate your comments, Darren, and yours as well, Councillor Cummings. Any other questions? Or yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Just so that I'm not, I'll try and bring a quasi-solution as well. I talked about your marketing slogan that you can borrow. I also, like, if I look at TELUS now. TELUS has expanded their footprint in town.
Yes.
So I'm suggesting that maybe you've already looked at that. But
We're
they do have a
that's
community
one.
building program. And
Yeah.
another option is Enhance Energy. They had an open house here. They're into carbon capture, underground storage and everything in central Alberta. They had an open house here last year, and I talked to their community facilitation individual who was very welcoming and said, hey, we like to invest in communities, and they have invested in communities like Muir and Stettler and others, whether it be libraries. So it sounds like you're on the trail with TELUS. Great, hopefully that, and I realize it's temporary. Those are more Band-Aid than sustainable.
Yes.
Enhance Energy might be another option to look at as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Hall, for your presentation here today. It's an uphill battle. I can understand that with a historical society as well, you know, and the museum, in that there is so much that's available online now. If people are interested in historical information and or looking at artifacts, it's all there. And so it's tough to be able to operate a museum in these days of technology, and I completely am sympathetic to your cause here today. And my recommendation is, I agree with what has been commented here with Councillor Wilson as well as Councillor Cummings, is that maybe it's time we start thinking outside the box and we start looking at solutions that are maybe not the typical museum structure as what we see going forward. And I don't mean to tell you what to do and how to do it, but I'm just thinking that, you know, going forward, the you mentioned Tourism Alberta, you mentioned being a hub, but maybe this is something, you know, that you need to concentrate on over and above being a museum and over and above being the archives as well. And yeah, I would just, one comment that I would say I'm not in agreement with, Councillor Wilson said, is the good luck about the Mawview County. I think I'm not of that thought that they would be cooperative with you, and I think they would also be sympathetic to your cause as well. So yeah, good luck in the future, and I certainly hope that you come up with a sustainable plan in the future to maintain the archives here in town. Thanks.
Councillor Wilson.
I'd like to respond to Councillor. I meant that genuinely from the deepest bottom of my heart. Good luck with those discussions. Anything you can do in those areas, whether it's with TELUS, Enhance, or Mountain View County, by all means, because it takes time and effort. You're a small group, so I meant it sincerely. Good luck with that endeavor. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And if I just could make a comment, have you approached the county yet to make a presentation to
No,
them
no.
similar to this? Maybe
No,
perhaps you'd like to.
that's going, yeah, that's in the works, Wanda.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be good. All right,
And-
thank you.
And I'd really like, Councillor Wilson, if you would direct an email to us with some of those ideas, that would be much appreciated, because I've been here and I'm taking this all in, and this is the first time I've had to do this, and I'm a little bit flustered to start with, and, well, I try. Well, most of them I've run into with my cart at co-op anyway, so. So I would appreciate any kind of feedback that we can get, because in the 3 years that I have been at the museum, we have not had representation from the town, even though they provide major funding to our organization. So at the same time, it would be nice to have some ideas from council so that we can go ahead and we're reviewing our strategic plan, so some of that could easily be worked into the strategic plan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. And seeing, do you have another comment, or did you wish to make a motion, Mayor Dahl?
No, I have a comment.
Okay.
You said you were going around the table to everyone.
Yeah, well, you had made a comment earlier, so
Okay, thanks.
that's why I thought maybe you wanted to make a motion.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to say that you did an excellent job in your presentation, considering the facts that have received in the past. I'm with the understanding the society actually implemented short-term plans in the past to keep your museum doors open, which meant that you had to cut your hours. Now, that's definitely going to affect what you're trying to do for community as well. I agree with the comments my colleagues around the table. I also agree that the Mountain View County does really, truly care about museums in their region, and you do need to do a presentation for them because they can't help something they don't know about, for sure.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
they've had the same funding
Yeah.
agreement for years
Right.
and years. See, I'm inheriting all this, so.
That's
And-
why I'm here to tell
Yeah.
you to stand on your feet and
I will.
continue your stand, because you're doing a very good job of that.
Okay.
And just continue your focus on governance model, because we all have to do that to maintain and stay alive.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for what you've done today.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Councillor Walsh, you have not contributed anything. Did you have any comments you'd like to make, or did you want to make a motion to accept for information?
I can do both. Thank you, Bill, for attending it and with your presentation. And Mayor Dahl's right. We rarely got anything out of the museum in the past to the detail that you have brought today. So thank you for that. And yeah, I'll make the motion that we accept their presentation for information. And thank you, Mr. Hall, for attending.
Thank you, Bill, very much for your presentation. All right, I will now call the question. All in favor? Thank you, that has been accepted for information. Moving along, we will now go into item number 4, new business, page 62. 4A, corporate services policies, C.O. Williams. Will you introduce? I'm assuming it's Director
Not
Lindeman.
yet. Yeah. With us today is Sheena Linderman, Director of Corporate Services, to lead us through some of her policy reviews. Sheena, take it away.
Thank you. So today, Corporate Services has 4 policies that we're brought forward for approval. They all have been converted to the new template, with 3 having no material changes. The one I do want to highlight is policy 211C on investments. The only change being made to this one is removal of the fourth point, which is to follow the banking requirements, which requires 2 signatures to purchase any investment. And with that, oh, sorry, and I will mention, we are recommending to rescind policy 210C, which is administration building access, as we will be leaving this building.
Thank you. I will open it up for any questions or comments that we have. Councillor Cummings.
Just 2 quick questions there. For the one that we're being asked to rescind, the 210C, will the rescind request be dated to the day we stop access to the building rather than the day we pass it? Just to, again, we should have it in place until we are no longer here, right? The other one was the 211C investments. By removing the fourth point, does this simply give the CAO the authority to make the investments, or the director, and just removes council's authority to do that? Because of course it's in the budget anyways, we've approved it, so.
Correct, so for the rescinding of the policy, yeah, we could date it as end of June, July, whenever we're leaving. For investments, it would give the Director of Corporate Services or CAO the authority to purchase the investment.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions on these? I'm assuming, Legislative Coordinator, that we are having 4 separate motions for this, or, okay, that's fine then. I'll be able to call on everyone. I will start then with Councillor Daly to go make the first motion, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. Move that the committee accepts as presented the request policy 202C, tangible capital assets, be brought to the future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you. I will now call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. I will move now to Councillor Walsh for the second motion, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that the committee accept as presented and request policy 204C incident management be brought to a future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you for that. I will now call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. I will move along now to Councillor Cummings to do the third motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I move that the committee accept as presented and request policy 211C investments be brought to a future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you for that. I will now call the question. All in favor? That motion is also carried. Thank you very much. Moving along now to the fourth one, Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the committee accepts as presented and request policy 213C signing authority be brought to a future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you for that. I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. And the final one, Mayor Dahl, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That the committee accepts the recommendation to rescind policy 210C administration building access and request the policy be made to a future council meeting.
Thank you for that. I will call the question. All in favor? That also is carried. Thank you. We will move along now to page 81 and the Olds Fiber Limited closing report. And CO Williams, I'm assuming that you are going to do the presentation on that report.
Yes, thank you again. I'll just wait till Marcy brings up the PowerPoint. There it is. All right, so corresponding to this report, shortly there will be a document posted on the town website and shared via various channels regarding the financial closure of OFL Limited. Even though the company was sold on November 5th officially, there was a promise made by me at that meeting where a public accounting would take place following the release of our audited financial statements for 2024, which happened last Monday. So this is that report. Note to anyone listening or interested that that meeting, where a lot more information and a Q&A Format was broadcast. It is available on our YouTube page if you so choose to watch it to get at more details on the process. The document released today is more of the financial picture, not so much of the why and how picture, although it does touch on that. So that report, on which I'm presenting on today, has 3 key sections. One is an ONET timeline, the second a financial summary, and the sales process and next step. It's a lot of information. Trying to make it digestible is challenging, but I think staff did a good job in doing that. So to start with the first section, a cursory overview. Again, there's more information available on our website through that document. 2007 was the earliest iteration we could find of council making a formal decision on a matter of loaning money to ONET, more or less, Olds Fibre Limited, which at that time was through the Olds Institute for Regional and Community Development. The actual first loan, where dollars were transferred, occurred in 2010 and happened throughout to 2016. In 2020, there was a forbearance process initiated, essentially a fancy word for calling in the debt owed to the town. Following the election in 2021, and the assumption of ONET by the town through a controlled corporation, we joined a partnership, a business management agreement, or BMA, with a company from Calgary, which ultimately did not work out. Also in 2023, during this BMA, a new board of directors was put in place by a town council, directors specializing in telecommunications and legal and finance in the corporate world, replacing all but one elected official on that board. That board of directors gave various advice to council, which is summarized in, essentially by 2 pieces of advice. Option 1 was to make the necessary investments into ONET required to sustain its operations, which was estimated at several $1 million over the course of at least 3 to 5 years, something the town was unable to do, given its already large financial commitment to ONET. The second option was to pursue a sale of ONET, which council ultimately decided to do, giving direction to the board of directors in early 2024 to initiate a sales process. And that brings us to the financial summary, and I'll circle back to what that sale process was, obviously. That is just something that has been gone over several times now, but that is the debt owed. That was owed by ONET to the town of Olds, beginning in 2010, up into our promissory note, which was in 2022, I believe, $19 million in debt owed. What was only gone over at the November 5th meeting was the expenses. So outside of the debenture payments that various iterations between 2020 and 2024 that the town had to take and pay on behalf of ONET, there was also operating expenses that, through tax dollars, the town injected into ONET approximately, exactly $535,311, largely through the public Wi-Fi payments that were retroactive to the date of the forbearance agreement. So that expense, in addition to what I made brief mention to, that the board of directors, who consisted of people very familiar with telecommunications and capital investment, thought the town council would be required to invest $1 to $2 million annually just to keep ONET afloat from 2025 onward. There was no set time, but 3 to 5 years was the initial estimate. And that was not sustainable, because not only was it no guarantee that that investment would in fact pay off and result in more subscribers paying more monthly fees into the revenue, we were also competing in a pretty tight environment against companies much larger than us. Rogers Shaw being one, Starlink being a growing second, and whatever TELUS and Bell would eventually do here. So again, the sales process. There was a private process run, but operated by a third-party mergers and acquisition firm called Stage Left Partners. They solicited nearly a dozen telecommunications firms across Canada to purchase ONET. At the end of the day, TELUS Communications was the successful bidder. The sales price was $11 million. short of obviously the $19 million that was owed to the town, but coincidentally or not, very much in line with an estimate that town council received in early 2021 perhaps from BDO Canada, the initial forbearance agent, that the company was in fact worth $10 to $11 million, and that was proved to be accurate. So from the net proceeds, we had to minus our closing costs, or the line of credit repayment, which OFL Limited owed to a local credit union, and also, but secured by the town, and then the expenses from the transaction as well. So in 2024, on November 5th, or perhaps on the early hours of November 6th, we received $4.2 million. That is not the whole sum of the transaction price we will receive. In many private sector transactions like this, there is what's called holdbacks and warranties. And that's what TELUS is holding for various lengths, but the final holdback will be released in late November of 2026, and by early 2027 we should have an additional $2.13 million from the ONET sale released to us. So our next steps here, and which again the document on our website goes into a bit more detail on, but we'll have even further information 2025 and 2026, is the debt restructuring. So at the time of sale, we owed approximately $8.9 million to the Alberta Capital Finance Authority, which is an arm of the Government of Alberta, specifically the Ministry of Treasury and Finance. So from the sales price, and this is $8.9 million before any of the sale proceeds are applied, we will make a lump sum payment tentatively later this month or early next month on the outstanding capital. We will service that new restructured debt throughout 2025 and 2026. In early 2027, when we receive that $2.13 million, we will apply a second lump sum payment and then service that, restructure again, and service that debt until our amortization period ends in 2031. And that is contingent on some interest rates staying stable, but we're largely confident that this will play out like this. And then when options, finances allow for options to be brought to council for accelerated payments, that will also be taken advantage of, and council can adjudicate at that time. So the tax effect, I'll get to the fortunate, unfortunate part in the next slide, I believe. But the annual debenture payments are going to drop slightly, and we expect them to be around $550,000. Half of this amount has been factored into the 2025 operating budget, and therefore the 2025 tax rate by law. And that equates to roughly 2.5% of a tax increase in 2025 to service the ONET debenture. The remaining 50% will be factored into the 2026 operating budget and tax rate bylaw. And if that future council accepts that format, that will be an additional 2.5% tax increase because of the ONET debt. Everything else separate, of course. So I did mention fortunate, unfortunate, but there is positives from all of this. You just have to look a bit harder. We posted, as was made clear last Monday, and the document goes further, a $7.8 million loss on this transaction to TELUS. Now, this is majority internal loans, obviously, that the town had loaned ONET from its own cash, so it doesn't have a right here and now financial impact. It's more that opportunity loss of not having those dollars available. Second is the unquantified, probably unquantifiable effect that ONET had in bringing people and businesses to town that hired employees and paid taxes. The reputational impact, which I didn't list here, not nothing, but not that significant enough to measure as a financial benefit. The larger thing in my estimation is the fact that the $7.8 million essentially bought a fiber optic network that is still in the ground, and although not controlled by the town of Olds, is controlled by TELUS. We do not have the horsepower, nor the money, nor the wherewithal, nor the knowledge to actually understand what this gigabit infrastructure could do. Gigabit is something that does not exist in vast majority of rural Alberta. outside of major centers. It exists here. And TELUS has the horsepower to leverage it. Now, of course, we are totally at their behest in terms of how they choose to invest and deploy and what opportunities they choose to partner with, but this is a significant opportunity in the age of the buzzword economy, of data center, of server farm, of Bitcoin, of blockchain, et cetera, and AI. So that is where I'll end it. Happy to take, obviously, questions, and I'm sure council has general comments on this. I did a cursory overview, but I do encourage residents, people watching, to check out our website. I believe it's olds.ca/engagement, where that full document will be on display. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Williams. I will open it up for council.
Oh, sorry.
Any-
Sorry.
Sorry.
I had one more slide. Really didn't plan that too well. So in closing, just one more thing to say. ONET's legacy, as I mentioned, not yet complete. And I guess I had to have one learning from this because it was important to take the bad with the good, is that the town of Olds has learned it does not belong in private enterprise. And I believe that going forward, if people ask us, how are we going to ensure that doesn't happen again? Well, council has a lot of autonomy, but this is a lesson that we learned, and while there's both good and bad, I think it's pretty clear that we have to leave business to business and, stay in our lane and prioritize our spending, which I believe we are on the track to do. So with that, I'm truly done.
Thank you. All right, I will open it up for questions or comments. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Cummings.
You're just so used to asking him first. Brent, correct me if I'm not mistaken here, we were able to convince the government of Alberta to waive the penalties for those lump sum payments in the renegotiation of that debenture?
Correct. They did agree to not penalize us for these lump sum or early payments. It's just not guaranteed in perpetuity based on the interest rate environment of that. But initially, yes, they did deny us any sort of debt forgiveness, which was the initial request, given that our pitch was there's many communities in rural Alberta right now receiving tens of millions of dollars of provincial and taxpayer funding to build fiber optic infrastructure. ONET was too early for that, so our argument was that perhaps the citizens of Olds, the taxpayers of Olds, also deserved equal opportunity to access federal and provincial dollars in that way. They disagreed, so we did settle on the semi-favorable restructuring terms, but nothing that's locked in permanently.
Thank you. Any other further comments or questions? Councillor Daly and then Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. And I would just like to extend my thank you to CAO Williams and his staff for all the work that's gone into this. And I certainly hope that the citizens of Olds understands the amount of effort and the time and the hard decisions that had to be made to come up with this decision and come up with this outcome. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you to Brent and his staff for all the hard work. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the CAO. Lots of numbers there to digest. Has my head spinning a bit. But at the end of the day, I think you referenced the town owes $8.9 million. There will be those two lump sum payments. At the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably am, we're left with a $3 million unfunded loan or liability amount, and hence your reference to the equivalent of a 2.5% tax increase for future years. It's roughly $3 million unfunded, correct, or am I wrong?
Yeah, it's difficult to how you present the numbers and how you calculate it. But if I guess people were asking me like, what actual cash is the town out? I wouldn't necessarily use the $7.8 million. I would say that we're short $3 to $3.5 million in terms of money we have to come up with now. So.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, and kind of a supplemental, thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you to the CAO. correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not intimately familiar with our policies, I know I should be. Do we have within our policy library anything around a borrowing policy or a capital financing policy?
No, the only related thing we would have would be our borrowing limit and our debt servicing limit from Alberta Municipal Affairs.
Counselor Wilson.
Thank you. So I will just make council aware, sometime in the future, I think based on the CAO's response, thank you, Deputy Mayor, that I'll probably look to do a notice of motion around some type of a policy, around something around borrowing or financing, capital financing. I need to think on that a little bit more. I've been doing a little bit of reading, which is always dangerous, but it seems to me it might be something this council will certainly might want to consider going forward for our residents and maybe to protect future councils from themselves, if I can use that wording. But yeah, so I may be bringing forward in the near future some type of a notice of motion around asking administration to bring forward a borrowing type policy. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just, Director Linderman is asked to speak to that if she may.
Thank you. I just, it's already in the works. It will be, I believe, on the July, I have it coming, Committee of the Whole, as a new policy.
Well, thank you for that information. I think, too, that one thing I think that we all can say is we really do truly appreciate the volunteer work that has gone into the ONET over the past 20 years almost. I mean, we know that the people who put their heart and soul into building the ONET and the ONET product were very dedicated individuals, and I think that we as council all recognize the hard work that went into it. If there's nothing else from anybody from council, I do have a comment sent to me from Councillor Ryan, and I should have noted at the start of the meeting that she's away today at a Alberta Munis meeting and was unable to attend today's Committee of the Whole meeting, but she did have a comment that she wanted to pass along. To CEO Williams, I want to thank you for your very thoughtful financial closure report on ONET. While there is no doubt that ONET was visionary and certainly a leader in its offering, I agree with your conclusion about a lesson for municipalities competing in private sectors, as millions in loans approved by previous councils will be felt in our community for many years while the debt is paid down, and that's unfortunate. And that is from Councillor Ryan. All right, and with that note then, if said nothing else from any of council, I will ask for a motion to accept the report. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I move that we accept the ONET financial closure report as information.
Thank you. I will call the question. All in favor? And that motion is also carried. And with that, I think we are at the bottom of our agenda for today's Committee of the Whole meeting. And with seeing nothing else from anyone, I will now adjourn the meeting at 2:43 p.m. Thank you for your time and attendance, and to those that are attending virtually, thank you.